In this problem, you have to tell the sign of the product if that product involves 7 negative integers and 5 positive integers. So if you remember that we had discussed that whenever there is even one negative integer is present in a given product, in a given multiplication, right? Product or multiplication are same thing. So if in a given multiplication or a product, if there is even a single negative integer, then just forget about positive integers. They will not decide the sign of the product. What will decide the sign of the product will be the number of negative integers in that multiplication. So in this case, you have 7 negative integers and you have 5 positive integers. Since you have negative integers involved, so positive integers will do nothing to decide the sign of the product. What will decide will be the number of negative integers. And if you remember, we had discussed that if there are odd number of negative integers, if there are odd number of negative integers, then your sign of the product will always be negative, that is minus sign. It will always be minus sign. And if your the number of negative integers involved are even, then your product will always be positive, that is of plus sign, and we know that there is no need to write plus sign if your product is positive. But in case if your product or multiplication is negative, then you have to write this minus sign. So in this case, you have 7 negative integers and 7 is an odd number, right? 7 is an odd number. So since your product involves 7 negative integers and 7 is an odd number, therefore the sign of the product will be minus sign. Okay, so sign of the product will be minus. What about this one? So you have 6 negative integers, and since 6 is an even number, so since even number of negative integers are involved, therefore your product or multiplication will be positive. Okay, your product will be positive. Let's come to this third one. You have -1 13 times. Okay, so that means that -1 times -1 times -1 times will go on like this till you have written this -1 13 times. So again, -1 is a negative integer. 13, since 13 is an odd number, therefore the sign of the product will be minus sign. Okay, so whatever answer will come, it will be with a minus sign. What about this one? -1 times 2m. Okay, and here the condition is given that m is a natural number. So m can be any natural number, and you know that natural number starts from 1, then 2, then 3, and so on. Okay, so this is the condition of a natural number. So natural number starts from 1 and it can go up to, there's no limit of that. So if, and also one point, there's another point, that if you multiply any natural number, if you multiply it with 2, if you multiply any natural number, be it 1, be it 2, be it 3, if you multiply any natural number, it will always be an even number. It will always be an even number. If you want to check, then you can check, right? 2 times 1 is 2, an even number. 2 times 2 is 4, an even number. 2 times 3 is 6, an even number. 2 times 11 is 22, an even number, right? So doesn't matter what natural number you're multiplying with 2, the final outcome or the final product will always be an even number. So in this case, it's always going to be an even number. 2m will always be an even number, because m is a natural number, and if you multiply any natural number with 2, you'll get an even number. And that means that if you multiply -1, that is a negative integer, even number of times. Okay, so it can be 2, it can be 4, it can be 8, whatever. So like here you saw that when you multiplied -1 13 times, so 13 was an odd number, therefore you got a minus sign. But here you have even number, that means that it will always be a positive, your product will always be positive. Okay, so, and there's no need to write a plus sign, therefore that will imply that your product is always positive and not negative.